Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, passed a new law that the deposit of 500,000 will cost you 10,000 naira in deposit charges, in addition to SMS, COT, VAT, and account maintenance. This invariably means that you now pay to deposit your own money in the bank.
To develop a cashless policy in itself, in its entirety, it's actually good for the sake of reducing the volume of cash in circulation, for security reasons, for the cost of maintenance, of course, of managing cash and all of that. Yes, it's actually good. And then the cost of security, reducing the mutilated currency and notes in the circulation. Yes, all those things are good. So generally, let's talk about what is the percentage. Like you said, 3% for an individual, 3% on withdrawals, and then you have 2% on lodgements or deposits. So if you're depositing 500,000 naira as an individual, you're charged 2% in excess of that. So if you're withdrawing above 500,000, anything in excess of that, you also charge 3%. Then for corporate, it's 5% and 3%. Now, what it means is this, because I've heard a couple of tweets and notes from CBN saying the whole essence is to reduce this, is to achieve this. And I also read that it was also concluded that 2% to 5% Nigerians are going to be affected. And I'm going to of those that are banking. I have a lot of issues with that statement in itself. If you're looking at Pareto system, you have 5%. Let me even take the higher part of the. Let me not take 2%. So it means that 5% Nigerians only have 500,000 naira and above to lodge in the bank in the first place. I have issues with that, and you are bringing that to the knowledge of everybody. So in the last maybe 16 years of democracy, you have not produced more than 5% Nigerians who are able to. Who are able to have up to 500,000 naira. That's even the background. Those are the. So if you are celebrating that okay.
That's a different topic.
Maybe I should not go. But I have issues with that. So now you're not saying that those 500,000, those people who are controlling the remaining 95%, whose income the remaining 95% depend on, you want to overburden them with that charges.
Yep. Now, when you say overburdened, because some people will say the only way we can develop in this country is through taxes. I mean, one of the major revenue-generating avenues for the government is through taxes. So whether we like it or not, we need to be taxed. But the moment Nigerians hear taxes, the antennas go up and say, and we just begin to condemn it. In its entirety, do you think taxing Nigerians is a bad idea? Or do you think that it is necessary?
Taxing Nigerians is not a bad idea. It's all over the world. But you know...
Why do we object to it so much?
Oh, we object for two reasons, or two of those reasons. Okay. Number one, if you live abroad, for example, I have a friend that lives in California, and he built a house in Nigeria with the tax savings returns every year. He says at the end of the year, they pay him $5,000, $20,000, and he sends it home to build his house out of the tax he has paid. Do we have that in Nigeria?
No.
So we want people to comply, and by the time they are complying at the end of the year, okay, I know that I've paid 100,000 naira. They will pay me 10,000 naira back. Or I can use my tax to approach the bank to access loan. There is no incentive around paying tax.
Talking about incentives, that's where I wanted to go. Okay. I also prefer the cashless policy. I think it will work very well for, especially security, when we're trying to manage how funds are being moved from across these terrorist groups. But we need to also talk about how to make people do this, how to make people want to accept this policy and make it easy for them. Because I do not see how someone who thinks that he has a small 500,000 naira and then they are going to put so many duties on it, the person would rather put it under the bed.
Definitely.
So when the CBN, when the CBN sits down and discusses things, who do they sit down with? Who are the people that sit down and advise them? Do they have people among regular Nigerians and what they go through when they sit down to come up with these policies?
You know, when you're trying to achieve a goal, there is this general principle called SMART, S-M-A-R-T, that it must be specific, it must be measurable, achievable, reasonable, and timely. I just want to pick the word time there. Now, is this the right time to actually introduce?
There's never a right time, but...
Well, you know what? Yes, there is never a right time. The recent issue of FBI charging Nigerians on what you call internet fraud was not on cash fraud. It was on internet. Now you're introducing policy. You have the MDs of banks. All of them will definitely support it because we increased what they earn. I understand that 11 banks made about 240 billion naira in fees alone.
That's where I want to go to, because I feel that the CBN policies seem to favor the banks. And because every policy has increased their revenue and diminished my own savings, my own value from putting my money in the bank. And we cannot be charging people for online transfer, charging them for withdrawal, charging them for deposit. So what do you want me to do in the bank? What do I do in the bank? I either withdraw money or deposit money or do transactions. I don't want to go to the bank, I do it online. So you charge me for every interface I have with the bank. Who is making the money? The banks. So if your policy is not encouraging my business to succeed or my finances to flourish, and your policies are encouraging the banks to do well, then you're not in service of me. But the question I want to ask you here is that how do we as citizens protest these policies? What can we do? How do we push for a change in these policies? Because I can say that I see my bank statement, and after every transaction, I have 54 naira deducted. They charge me 50 naira, then they charge me 4 naira on that 50 naira. And that's because I had to disable text messages.
For email notification.
For email notification. So I am being charged on my every if I get 1,000 naira, I pay 50 naira on it. If I get 500 naira, I get 50 naira on it. And so how do we now engage these policymakers to understand the impact of these withdrawals on our bottom line?
Okay, so to answer that, and I'm going to take it from what I was talking about and she picked, which is incentive. But before that, I'm not aware if there was a public hearing on this before it was actually released. If there was a public hearing to discuss this, or there was a public opinion that was sought before it. Of course, we know the introduction of cashless policy actually started like I think 2012, long ago. We're shifting it. When I was talking about timing, you just introduced VAT, increased VAT from 5% to 7.5%. And then CBN is also bringing its own. I want to believe that other agencies will start bringing their own on the same Nigerians. Do you understand? Now, are we actually working to please the president or the every department, every ministry, because they have to give account now of their KPI now. So let me push and impress the president as against the citizen. I have issue with that. Now, coming to that, if we want to protest, the best way is there's no way you can protest against the bank, because it wasn't actually the bank that brought it up. It was the regulator of the bank. The best way is to have a public hearing and some of these things that we're doing, and it gets to the ears of the government. And then the government sees, they know what is happening. But another thing is this. There are only few states that are affected for now. Do you know that the security, which is another issue we're trying to avoid, to reduce cash movement. We can't even achieve it now, even if we agree to this new policy. For example, Oyo State is not aware, is not included yet. I think Nasarawa State, I'm not aware that they're part of it yet. So Nasarawa is very close to FCT. Oyo State is just 1 hour drive or 1.5 hours drive from Lagos. So if I need to be paying this, and I still, my business is still, for example, cash is still dependent. Then I can move my cash. The security we're trying to avoid will still be there.